Hello friends, Ashton here. So it's been a long time. So today I'm going to build a live coding project. So I'm going to show you how to set up a Vue3 project for Google Apps Script. So just in case you want to use the latest Vue version here. So this is like an introduction how to set up the project. All right, so let's get started. So first I'm going to need to use a terminal command line tool here to have this project started. So right now here I'm in this project here, project folder. So for live coding, so if I'm to list here, all the project here for live coding, as you can see. So right now I'm planning to do this as 18 projects. Okay, so let's do npm init view at latest and I'm going to name it. So this is going to be the name of your project. So 18. So you can name it whatever you like. So this is command from the document quick start here from Vue3, Vue.js.org. Right now it's in version 3, right? npm init. So I assume you already have the npm installed, right? And make sure you have the npm installed. And right now it's package name, no problem with that. And add TypeScript. So if you want to use TypeScript, you can select yes. So I'm not going to use TypeScript. And JSX, no. Router, no for now. And Pineer. So this is a store state management tool. So I'm going to use it for this demo. For testing, no. Testing, no. ESLint, yes. Prettier, yes. So this is going to help us to manage our files a little bit better. So we have this. So if I do ls right now, so we have this folder directory created, right? So let's just change the directory to live coding project 18. So right now, here we are in this project. So if I do ls to list all the directories and folders, as you can see, we have this project set up, and follow the instructions here. We can do an npm install. It's going to install the dependencies. Okay, so npm install. It's going to need a while to install all the dependencies, and during this time, so you can go to this this website here. Here we have the instructions for all of this. Okay, let me check the progress here. During we are installing this file, so on our Google Drive here, so we need to set up a spreadsheet. So normally, if we are working with app script for web applications, so normally we are using a Google Sheet for the data, especially for sample database. So right now I already have this file created. So if I go to the app script here, I'm going to, so this is just a blank file, and it's just creating a new project for us. So we're going to use it later in our Vue project. So let me rename this to LC018, just to keep it empty. And we can do a first deployment. Maybe we can deploy it as a web application and dev. So anyone deploy. Not sure if it's going to give me some error because we don't have any do get function or something like that for deploying a web application. So let me check the progress. So right now, as you can see, the project here is set up, so we can have this, close it for now, and the installation is done. So here, if I'm going to run a command, so let me open the project in VS Code and help me a little bit better, maybe for you guys to understand. Let me go to full screen. So here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this is our project here. This is our source folder. So right now in this package.json here, we have our script here to develop, to show, if we want to build it, we can build it. So right now, if I'm trying to run npm run dev, and we can have an application, just a simple application here right now. Okay, so first of all, let me just remove some of this content here. So for all the components, I'm going to remove all of them. I don't think I need all of them for this app. And I'm going to get rid of all of this. So we just only have a template here with H1. So say this is gas Vue3 template for now. And for the styles, get rid of all of the styles. And let me check if anything else. So this is our main.js. Let me check. So right now it's working like this, but I need to get rid of this, all of this CSS. So basically, we have a clean setup. So everything is removed, and we now only have this. All right, failed. That is because I need to get rid of these two. Okay, so this is like so it's basically remove all of this default setup, and we have a very clean setup, and we can add whatever we want. Okay, so just add it H1 here, so we can have this template here. So to make sure so basically we now have this template, right? And this is like the start point for our application, and for basically we need to somehow to basically connect our local project to our online project here in this app script. And now here we have a application here. So we basically need to build. So here, let me separate, open another terminal here. So if I'm trying to run npm build, it's going to generate a folder here for us for the, not sure, I think npm run build. Sorry about that, run build. Now it's done, and we have this folder. So this is going to be the code we need to push to our app script project here, push to this project. Okay, so that's our final goal. So to do that, I already prepared a script to do that for us. So let me make a copy of the code. So let me create a new file called gas.sh. So this is a shell script. This is the best script. Okay, so here this script is going to help us to build a default setup for app script to use for us to use apps with app script, and we can push all of this code to our app script project here. So let me show you what I mean here. So if I'm trying to run this script here, gas sh. So permission denied. I'm not sure if you know the bash. So basically I need to change the permission so we can execute. So we can do here is add so this plus x means we can add a permission, so we can make this file executable. So the file name is gas.sh. So right now, if I'm trying to execute this script again, we can execute. So right now, it's basically built the project for the Google App Script, and I'm going to create a folder here. Let me close all of these files so we'll see. We have a gas folder created, and then we have this JS file, and we have this HTML file and the CSS file. Okay, so something right now there is no style here, so this is empty tag here. So we can push this file all the files in this folder to our project, but I need to connect this project to our AppScript project. So let me make a copy of this link here, and we need to use another tool called clasp. Okay, so if I do a clasp help, I'm sorry, not a help, clasp help. We have some help here, so we can use a command here to column the project to this folder. So what I can do, let me click clasp. We can use a help to know if we can have some options here to use this. So we can assign a root directory. Okay, so I think that's the only option here. So what we can do, clasp. So right now we are in this project folder. So if I column this to, let's add a root directory to, let's say, because we have this folder called gas, right? I want to set this folder as a root folder, and then we pass the URL to our project. And if I'm column this file, so as you can see now, we have this created. And if I set it to gas and the class push, I think we're going to push all the files to, okay. Something wrong here. Gas appscript.json, no such directory. So I think I need to move this this file to the root directory. So let's change directory back. And so right now we are in this root directory, and I need to move the gas file, not this gas file. I need to move this to current directory. Okay, so it's moved from this gas folder and to this one. And if I'm trying to do a class push again, it should work now. So it's going to push all the files to our project. So if I refresh this page, we're going to have all the code. As you can see, we have this CSS, so we have this JS, and we have this index. And the final thing here we need to do, we need to configure this file so we can have the code. We need to have a do-get function, right, for deploy as a web application, and we also need to have another function called includes. So basically this will help us to link all of these files, so we need to have two functions. So you can do it here, no problem for that. And there is another way you can do it here. So in this file, and let me show you. I'd like to install another. So I'm going to install npm install types. So I'm going to save it as a dev dependency. So it's called types Google apps script. So this is going to help us to develop the script locally. Okay, so now it's installed. So if I'm checking the file called package.json, so here we have these types installed. So after we have this installed, what we can do here, so if I'm typing, so let's do a function here called do-get e-parameter. So if I'm trying to return the HTML file, we can use the API here, HTML. As you can see, we have HTML service, and we can create a template from file. So I'm going to call it, because we are using this index file, it's going to be our entry point, right? So you got all of this help here. So after we have this installed, if you don't, you won't have this auto completion. So create template from file and evaluate it, and we're going to add a meta tag for Vue3. The content for this, let me copy it from here. So that's basically set up. basic setup for the web application. And we're going to add, not add, set. So this is going to enable the iframe. All right. So HTML service X frame options, allow all. And what else do I need to add? Maybe I need to set a title for it. So let's say this title is going to be gas. Let's say we have a config title. All right, so this config, I need to set it up here. And title is going to be the name of our application. So let's call it gas Vue3 template. Is this correct? No. Okay, so this is our do-get function. We have some problems here. That is because I need to maybe fix all of this, because they are not standard Vue code. They're just AppScript code. So, and another function. Remember, we have includes function here, so we need to also have this function created. So let's do a function includes. So it takes a file name as a parameter, and we just simply return HTML service and create output from the file. So file name, I'm going to return the content of the file. So this is going to be our includes function. And with these two functions, I think everything is ready. And let's do another push. So class push. So this command is going to push all of the script or all of the code, all the files here in this gas folder, because in our settings, where's my settings? So settings, this is our root drive, and push it to this project. So this is script ID. All right, let's just push. It's going to push the files to our directory. So, and I should be here. So if I reload, we should be able to see all the code here. We just updated. And if I'm going to the deployment here, because we already did the one deployment. Yes. So if I'm going to test deployments, I should have a link here. So if I open this link, okay, parameter string doesn't method signature get title. Okay, I should use set title. I'm sorry. So let's do an update here. Set title. After we do the update, we do a class push. So it's going to update the files online or on the server. Okay, so let's try to reload. So we see this title, and that means everything is good, and we have the same result here. So if comparing to the local file here, so that's the basic setup. So you should be able to do, and to do more things here. So to improve our experience a little bit better, so what I'm going to do, I need to update, I need to add a script. So every time we do some update locally in our Vue project, we need to have the script updated here, right, in our project online. So it's better idea to have a script do that. So let me check here. So in this package.json file, so this is the build function to build our project, right? So after every build, I'd like to push the files, and after every build, and I'd like to create another script called gas. So this gas is going to do something like I did before. I'm going to change the mode just in case it's not executable for this gas.sh. So gas.sh, and I'm going to execute this script, this bash script. Okay, so this is our gas script. So if I right here, if I'm trying to run npm run gas, So this function is equal to this line of code here. Okay, so this is so it's basically doing the same thing. So if I'm trying, but this is not very easy to type every time. So that's why this is like a shortcut. So you can just run this. It's basically run this one. So let me just do something. npm run gas. So it's basically calling this script, and it's going to rebuild all of this content here. So let me clean the screen, and I'd like to add another one called build gas. So this is going to combine npm run build and npm run gas. So this is going to basically run this build function first, and then we can run this gas script after we build the project. So every time we did the change, and we want to show the change in our the files on our server, so we need to build the Vue project, and we use this gas script to basically to build this folder, and this is the files are ready for our usage in our online server. So that's why we have this one and this one. And then maybe we can add something like this. And the last command here is going to push our changes from local to the server. All right. So this is our three-in-one command called build gas. So what we can do here, let's try to make a change here in our app here. So let's add H2 some changes here. So I did some change, and if I'm going to check this is change here I did, right? And this is our current version. So if I reload, we don't have the change here. So if we compare these two versions, so what we can do here, we can do npm run build gas. So it's going to rebuild and rebuild the dist and rebuild the gas folder and push the files to our local, not local. So if I'm trying to reload this page again, now you see this is a change we did locally, and now we have two applications like this. They are basically the same. Okay, so this is the basic setup, and then you can focus on your application with Vue, and all the setup is ready for you to use. And the next part, I think I'm going to do something, just create a form so we can just make an application here. Okay, so before we do that, I'd like to add a Vue3. So Vue3, this is a component library for Vue. Okay, so we have a lot of components here we can use. So to use it, let me add it at the component, so add the plugin. Okay, so we add Vue3 like this, Vue3, Vue add Vue3, and make sure you have Vue installed. So because this right now is Git repository, so it's got this running, there's no problem. So let's just install Vue3 plugin. So I'm going to use byte preview. So right now it's in beta, but we're trying to use it anyway. So installed. All right, so now it's installed. And after this installation, as you can see, we have some changes in our application because this is some default setup. So this is changed by this Vue3 stuff. So if I'm trying to reload the page here, something is wrong. I need to maybe let me get rid of this hello world components. So get rid of all of this script tag, because right now we are in Vue3. So let's add a H1 here. So Vue3 edit, and in the components, so this is added by Vue3. Remember, I removed all the components, and so this is added by Vue3. Let me check. I need to restart the server. So npm run dev. So now it's online. So Vue3 added, and because Vue3 did some change on our file, and it's removed something here because we have a store, so we need to have this added back. So let's just import. I don't know how to pronounce this. Piena, I don't know. So we have a function here to create Piena. So we need to use this. Call this function here. So you also can do something like store equal to create Piena, and you can then add the store here, so we can use this store. So basically the same thing, okay? So now we should be good too. So maybe let me split the screen. Okay, so now we can do some change here. So let's create a function here called, so in our component, I'd like to create a file here called counter app view. Because we have a store here called counter. Okay, so this is our counter store. So I'd like to use this default setup to do some test here. So in this counter, I'd like to create a template and a script. And for now, let's just create a view, not view, container. Let's just put h1 here. So this is our view counter application, okay? And in our view, so view app.view, I'd like to remove this h1 here because I don't need it. And I'd like to import the components, basically our counter view application. So let's import counter app. No. Let's import counter app from add component. Component. So this is our counter app, and we can use it here in our main app. Something is wrong. Okay, I think I need to add a setup here. Because this is Vue3, I forgot because I use Vue2 a lot. So right now I need to use this setup in the in this tag. So if I go to, I also need to add it here just in case. So now we have this counter app. So we can work on these components, and we don't need to worry about the application here. So in this counter app here, I'd like to add maybe we can add a card here. So v card. So all of these components start with v. They're from Vue3, okay? So v card title. And let's move this counter app to here so I can get rid of this. So now we have a card, if you can see here, and we can have a card text. Here we're going to have our form. So I'd like to add a v form here, and I'd like to take a text field. The text field. vcard text, vcard. I need to wrap this to the vcard. So now we have this label here, but this is going to be our, right now because this is our counter application, right? And basically, this is like give it a label. So this label, let's rename it to amount. For the counter, we don't need the ID. And for the name, we don't need the name. So now it's amount. So this amount, I'm going to increase or decrease by this amount to this counter application. So in this script tag here, we need to define something here. So let's just, first of all, let's just const to use this store. So we can import use counter store from store, not like this one. I think I need to import use, not user. I think, let me check the name. Use counter store. Okay. Use counter store. So it's going to import the counter. So we import this function, and what we can do, we can define a counter here called this function. It's going to create a counter, and then we can access the counter. If you check the counter store here, we have a count, double count, and the increment. So this is a function, this is a property, and this is also a computed property. Okay, so in our application, what we can do here, let's add the row here and the column. So this is going to be set up the layout for us. So let's say columns 12. So I'd like to add a Vue3 group to show you the result. And here I'd like to use counter.count. Something's wrong. Okay. This is not a, there is a typo here. Let me reload. So right now the count is 0, right? So count is 0, and we also have another chip. Let's say double count. So double. So this is double count. Right now, 0, 0. So it makes sense. And in this form, so actually, I'd like to grab this in the column for this text field, and I also like to add a button here. So let's copy this line and add a submit button here, the BTN. So color is going to be primary. So submit. So right now we have a button here, but I'd like to add another button to increase or increment, or another button to decrement. So add a class here, add some margin X to. So this is going to add a margin for this button for the increment. So this is basically the form here. So we are going to build this form. So we add amount here like 10, and if we increase, I'm going to add this count to 10, right? So right now 0 plus 10 is 10. If we decrease, it's going to negative 10, something like that. So right now this is a form, but the functionalities is not ready. We just have this form. So to make sure this is also working for our online project, what we can do here, remember, we can run npm run build gas. So this is a command. It's going to rebuild the project and push the files to our online project here. Let me get rid of this. So it's done. And if I refresh our online project here, I hope I can get the same result. All right. So let's add the functionalities so we can increase and decrease the account. So this is our store. So in this store, we have a function here to increment, and it's going to increment by 1. But I like to take the amount here so we can increase the amount here by this amount. So just a little bit change here. And we also need to have a function here called decrement. We don't have to do that. So we can update the function called we add amount here, and we plus equal amount. So in this way, we can take argument for this function, so we can increase the value of this count by the amount, by this amount we like. So if this amount is negative value, that means we are decrement, right? So we don't have to define another function to do something like if I make a copy of this. So we call this decrement. This is like amount, but we just negative, so we minus. So we need to export this. This is another solution, but you can do both. So let me comment this out, and I don't need this. I don't think I need this. So increment, what I can do here in the counter application, this function is here. So we also can destructure this. I think we can get the counter, but I just keep it simple like this. So the first submit function is going to take, so let's just add a click event here. So when we click on this button, I'd like to call this function to counter increment. We're going to increment the value in the amount, right? In this, so whatever we input here, we increase it by this amount. So we get the amount here as a parameter. So I hope this can work, but we need to define this amount. Right now, this amount is not defined. So let me close this sidebar. So const amount equal to ref. By default, I like to set it up to 1. So this ref function is from the Vue, so we need to import it. So this is Vue3, okay? So ref from Vue, and we need to bind this ref with our input field here. So the model, we dash model, and bind it to amount, so we can see, and maybe we can change it to number, just in case. So we can give it a type of number. So right now, as you can see, we have this amount here, 1, and if I'm not sure if I'm trying to increase. So you can see here, every time I click on this increment, it's increasing. So it's 6, 7. So if I put 10 here, it's still 1. So let me check amount. That's weird. So to debug this, I think I need to reload. That's weird. 10. Okay, so now it's 10. 20, so 30. So now it's working. So the same idea, if you can see how can I do this decrement in our counter. Let me close all of these files. This is our increment, right? So we can simply copy this line of code. And so this is for decrement. And this function, we just put a negative here for the amount. So we can have one single function to do the increment and decrement. I hope this can work. So 30, maybe reload, decrement. So -1. So 10, increase, decrease, increase, decrease. So it's working now. And we can test it by just push. So npm run build gas, if you remember. So we can push this to our online project and to test if it's working there too. Pushing the files, wait a minute. All right, so it's done. And if I reload the page here, increase, increment, decrement. So it's now, as you can see, this is an online project and it's working. And finally, I'd like to make this submit button so we can save the count here in the Google Sheet. So I think that's our final step. So you can have a fully working online project like this. So this is like our backend, and this is like front end stuff. So we developed here locally, and this is our project. So let's make this working. So to do that, I'd like to create a utility file. So let's start source utils.js. Let's open the file. So here I'd like to create a function. So export const. So I'm going to make a request function so we can call this function and make a request to our backend. Let's make this arrow function, and this function is going to return a promise. Okay, so return new promise and resolve and reject. So what we can do here, we can call the API here, Google. All right. This auto-completion sometimes got some error. So Google script.run. So this is the API we're using to call our backend function, right? And with success handler, we're going to resolve, and this is going to be our response. And here, what we're going to do, resolve response, and I think I'm going to parse JSON, parse this response, and with failure handler, this is going to take an error, and then just reject this error. Okay, my cat is and here I'd like to add two parameters here. The first one is going to be our API function name, okay, and another one is going to be our payload. Let's give it a default object, so just in case we don't have any payload for some of the API. So in this bracket, I'd like to call this function, and the payload is going to be our parameter here for this function. And I'd like to string find this payload as well. Put the payload here. Google is not defined, of course. Let's just disable this. So this is our utility function to make a request to our API, okay? Basically, this is a request to our Google Sheets app script. And then we can, like, for example, if I want to update the value in A1, we can create a function here to do that. So what we can do in our guest file, in our code, so this is our API function. So let's say submit. You can call this any function you like. So maybe API counter update. API set counter, maybe something like that. Set count. So it's take a payload. So the payload is going to be submitted from our from this function, from this request. Okay. So this is like function name, and this is like the payload. And the function name is going to be our API set count, and the payload, because remember we string find this payload, so we'd like to parse it. So JSON parse payload, and what we can do, we can get the worksheet. So spreadsheet, get active, get sheet by name. So right now the sheet name is sheet 1, right? And the worksheet get range A1, and I'm going to set the value of A1 to payload.count. And I'm going to return a JSON.string file. Success, true, and I give it a message. Let's call it count has been set, just for simple. So this is our API function here at the backend, and at our front end, when we click the submit button, we're going to send a request to this function, to this endpoint, API endpoint, and with this payload, and the payload is going to be the count in our store. Okay, so if this is ready, what we need to do, we need to go to the counter, the store here. So we'd like to define a function here called submit. Maybe we can do it function submit. And this submit function, I'd like to return this, so we can use it in our application here. So let's say right now, let's just console.log the payload. So let's just make a payload here. This payload is going to take a count, and the count we're going to be the value. Okay, so count or value. So this is our payload. So let's make sure this is working. So this submit function, let's open the counter app. And we have this counter. In this counter, we have a submit function. So here, add a click event here. What we need to do, we need to basically call this function, so counter.submit. So this is from this counter store, right? So we have this submit function. So when we click it, we should be able to get the pay. Let me open the console here, so we'll see reload. So it's 0 if I increase. So right now it's 5. If I click submit, we have this count 5, right? And increase, submit, now it's 8. So we need to submit this count 8 back to our spreadsheet. So this is like form submit to our application. So let's go back to our counter. So we need to call this function here called request, right? So what we can do here, we need to import this function. So import request from the utilities. So this is our request function. So we can use it here. But we need to make this function an async function, so we can, because this is a request to our API. So not here, async payload. So we now have this payload, right? We can call this function, so const result equal to await, because this is async function, so we can use this await, and request. So it's going to take the API function name. So the API function name is the function we defined in our API. So this API set count. So this is function name, and the payload is going to be this payload. And we just console.log this result. So we'll see if this is going to work. But I think it's going to have some errors. So right now, if I'm trying to do this in here, you will see it's count 8. I need to reload the page because I do some change. Because we got this error because right now this Google is not defined, because this Google API is only available in our online application. So right now this is not working. What we need to do, we need to run our script to update our code. Basically, npm run build gas. Let's just make the changes to our online project. So pushing the files is almost done, okay. So if I'm trying to reload this page, okay, authorization is required to perform this action. That is because we, in our code.js file here, we added a new API spreadsheet out, so we need to complete the authorization process. So let's class open. This is going to open the project, the script file. So we can basically run any function and to complete the authorization process. Advanced. Are you okay? Okay, so now it's done. And if I'm trying to reload, I hope I can get it back. So right now, it seems like there is no change. But if I'm trying to increase the amount, so right now it's 8. And if I submit in the console, what we can see here, if you can see, success is true. So if I check the data here, it's 8. And if I'm trying to add 100 increment, so it's 108, 108, and I submit, so the count is true. So if I check right now, it's updated. So that's the final task in our, so this live code, this is live coding. So I hope you can follow this video. So this is basically the basic setup for application. And as you can see, we now have ability to connect our application with, so this is front end and this is back end, and this is like form, so you can do, so you can add more information and save it to the Google Sheet like this, and you can have multiple applications, and you can do different functionalities like this, and in this way it's going to help us to develop the application very easily locally, and you can utilize all of these functions, especially if you are a fan of Vue or any other. I think we can do the very similar things with React, but I was trying to learn some React recently, but I think I should focus on the Vue first, what I did here. Okay, so this is the basic process to set up a project like this. And let me close this. And let me check. So this is a sample project. This is just, so if you are checking the code here, it's like a mess. That is because all of this, they're compiled by, like compressed. So it's not readable like this. So that's why we need to have this local environment and have this like code base. So it's in this source folder, we have all the files and our source code. And after we build the project, it's going to convert it to something like this and this. And in our guest folder, if you see, this is totally insane, I have to say, like this. Okay, and let me think if anything else. So that's almost it about this project. So if you can follow this video, and I hope you can get everything working. And basically this gas.sh, so this is a shell script, is basically to help us to basically automate the process to push the files to our online project a little bit easier, and to build the structure for our app script. So this is our code.js, and you can rename it, no problem. And this CSS, index, and JS, so all of these 3 files, HTML files, they're generated by this script here. Okay, just a few lines of code here to do the automation. And let me think. Maybe the last thing here, if you don't have the Clasp, the tool Clasp installed, maybe I'd like to add this as a dependency for, let me open Clasp npm. So add Google Clasp, and so this, I'd like to install this, okay, for you guys. So I'm going to add it to this dependency here. So let me check the command. I think it's add Google class, and save it as a dev dependency. No. Okay. npm install add Google class. I have a typo there, as you can see. So it's going to save it, install it as a development dependency. So after you made a copy of this project and you just run npm install, I think I'm going to update this readme so you can follow this instruction here to after you make a copy of my project folder, and you can simply follow the instructions or follow this video, and you should be able to set up the Vue project on your local machine, and it should be good to go. And let me check Clasp. So this is a tool we need to use when we are trying to push the files. Okay, I think that's almost it for this video. All right, so thank you. Bye-bye. But all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Way back.